Hello, welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Wike TV. My name is JIBRIN, and this is my angle. Thank you once again for joining us today on this powerful episode of the JIBRIN Angle, together with Barrister Austin Manta, who is a very, very senior legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. For those of you who don't know Barrister Manta is a lawyer, a seasoned lawyer of over 40 years in practice. And we shall be, together with him, we shall be giving justice to topics of the moment. Barrister, thank you once again for honoring our show.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, let's go straight to the point as we have so much to talk about today. Barrister, let's start with what happened earlier in the week with Wike, between Wike and the military personnel or the military authority, because it was a very controversial issue, and everybody is like, so it was the issue actually splitted Nigeria or Nigerians into two different sides. Some who supported the military, overwhelming majority of Nigeria actually supported the military, and not the military authority, but specifically the personality in the military, that is the military officer involved. While some, mostly politicians, were on the side of Wike. So it was a divided situation. But let me play this. We'll come back to talk about it after I play this clip. And probably with an article, I shall be reading an article as well.
As an officer, nobody does that.
We did not carry anybody.
The man took this Arab, we will not allow because he was chief of numbers, and then he used to carry land.
Sir, everything was acquired legally.
Will you stop
so
that?
You get
Will you stop that?
Sir, I'm an officer, have integrity.
Shut up, your man, put us.
I will not shut up.
Will you get out?
Sir, I won't shut up. Sir,
I was in school, you're not in school.
Sir, you can't shut
Will
me
you keep quiet?
You
Get
can't
me
shut
a big fool.
I'm not
You are a big fool.
I'm not a fool,
You think you
sir.
can shoot anybody like that?
Sir, I'm not
You
a
are big
fool.
fool. Are you
I am not a fool, sir.
As at the time I graduated, you were in primary school.
I'm acting on orders.
Take for which order? You will see whether you will not lose here.
Sir, you can't call me a fool.
Go and develop your
I'm an
mind.
officer. I'm not a fool, sir. I'm an officer.
You will have killed everybody here.
No, we are not killing anybody. We won't kill anybody. We are acting on orders.
Go and develop your right to see you.
Regular officer, you won't come and
We are going to get out.
All right, Barrister. Now, this is the video is all over the place. This is not new to most Nigerians, if not all Nigerians that have been on social media. And there are so many clips. Some of them, I have about 3 different ones. Some of them are longer, or whatever. But there is a point I just want us to pick out of this. That's why I didn't play the long one. And I don't know. First of all, what is your take on that altercation between Wike and the military personnel, and generally what took place between Wike and the military authorities? So what's your opinion on that?
Thank you very much for this. First and foremost, this incident has brought to the fore very critical questions that we must ask ourselves in this country and answer. You will look at the divide in the Nigerian states, commentaries, people commenting based on sentiment, based on hatred for Wike mostly, and then leaving the German and important questions that ought to be asked. Yeah. The first question to be asked is, who is ruling the country? Is it civilians or the military? Yeah. Are the military subordinated to civil authority, as we are made to believe that it is not a military government, it is a civilian government? That's the first question. The second question is the extent to which a retired military officer can command and direct and give instructions to active service personnel. Then the third question is the right or unlawfulness of what happened at that place. First and foremost, we all acknowledge the garrulous nature of somebody like Wike, his abusive motorpad tout manners, which we have all condemned. They are not befitting of a very top public officer, a minister for that matter. His conduct, his speeches, his statements, and things that come out of him are not that of, or should not be coming from a top political public officer. Having said that, the question is, does Wike have the right to be there? Of course, he has the right. He is the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. All lands in the Federal Capital Territory are under him, whether in terms of title to the land, in terms of building approval to the land, and in terms of the master plan of the FCT. These three levels are under the control of Wike. So he has the right to question anybody who is putting up a structure within the FCT, whether they have title to the land and whether they have approved building plans to the land. He has the right through himself or his subordinates to question anybody who is putting up a structure. So to that extent, he was right to be there and to demand for documents, title documents, and approved building plans. Now, the response of the young military officer that he was under instructions. On the surface, we can excuse the officer because a senior officer gave him instructions. But when you look closely, you know that that was not the beginning of the issue. Directors and other officials of the ACT have come to that plot before to request for title document and development, and the soldiers have chased them away. That is what necessitated Wike to come there himself. And the history of that land, as everybody knows, that property was given to one company, Santos Nigeria Limited, in 2007 to build park and a recreational facility. And as accord with Nigeria's lawlessness, instead of building a park and a recreational facility, they subdivided the land and began to sell to people. That is how the retired admirer bought the place. He has no title, he has no COO from the FCT, he has no building approval. So to use the army in a civil dispute, number one, is not proper. The army is not meant to be used for your personal civil dispute. Assuming now you have an accident on the road with a soldier, does it mean that they will now drive soldiers to come and settle the dispute or take over? Why it is accepted that very senior retired military officers are given a compliment of serving military personnel for their security, and by extension, security of their property. There is a limit. When the dispute is on a property, it's no longer a military matter. It's no longer an issue of protecting your property. The dispute must be resolved in a civil manner, not by the military, but by the civil issue, possibly by the court. So I do not see what wrong Wike did. I totally condemn the language, the anger, and the way and manner he took up the matter. He challenged the young officer. I totally condemn that. But he was within his right to challenge the development without title and without a building plan. And lest I forget, all those people shouting in support of the army, tomorrow it will be their turn. They will have an issue with an army officer, even a police officer, and then that army officer will draft soldiers to deal with them. What will they say at that point? Is that the government is that the society we are talking about? Certainly not. And the fact that the president has kept quiet because Wike at that point was representing the president, who is the commander-in-chief. Whether you like it or not, he was a representative of the president and the commander-in-chief. So disrespect to him is also disrespect to the president and commander-in-chief. So we have to balance all these things, all those people shouting. Let them know that if this kind of thing is not punished, it will affect everybody. Nobody will be safe in the military on totally civil matters.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister. Let me read this news article briefly before I make my comment. Okay, it says how FCT Minister Wike revoked 30 hectares of land owned by top military officers, reallocated same to associates, including INEC chairman Amupitan. Let me read one or two paragraphs here. Fresh details. Excuse me. Fresh details have emerged on the land dispute that triggered Tuesday's confrontation between the Federal Capital Territory Minister, Nyesom Wike, and soldiers who stopped him and his officials from entering a property in Gudu district, Abuja. Speaking exclusively to Sahara reporters, a legal practitioner involved in the case explained that the disputed 30-hectare land was initially allocated to serving and retired military personnel, but was later revoked by the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. The lawyer revealed that the same was reallocated to Wike's political associates, including a top ally alleged to be the current Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC chairman, Professor Sam Amupitan. The source, who has been directly engaged in the matter, said the revocation and redistribution were carried out in total disregard of due process, official recommendations, and existing approvals. I am personally involved as a lawyer in this matter, quote, and several other cases of revocation and reallocation of land to private persons by Wike, the source said. Wike revoked the land which totaled 30 hectares and allocated it to some persons, one of whom we were told in confidence is a current INEC chairman. Unfortunately for Wike, a former naval chief, Awal Gambo, and some serving army personnel have vested interest in the land and have partly developed same. Okay, the news continues, but I don't want to go ahead with that. Now, I have a kind of different take on this, but balanced somehow. Honestly, I was thrown aback by the way this issue actually split Nigerians, not in equal part, but overwhelmingly. That is, the tilting was actually overwhelmingly skewed in favor of the military and that military personnel. In fact, most Nigerians just consider that boy a hero or whatever. I don't see it that way. I have my own view actually aligns mostly with you. But both sides doesn't have excuse for their misconduct. The military boy there's no doubt that land has issues. Just like I read now, it has issues. Wike has its own. We have had this, but this is not the first time that Wike has been doing this. He revokes. Now, the revocation, was it warranted? Okay, he's just doing what he's supposed to do as a minister. The revocation was warranted. All the revocations were warranted because they didn't have papers. They didn't have documents. There's no doubt about that. But what did he do with it? Did he reallocate it to his cronies? Well, that's a different ballgame, but I'm not going to go into that right now. I don't want us to dabble into that. Now, what I want us to talk about, and I will be talking about right now, is both sides, the misconduct from both sides. Now, first, the military. Just like I agree with you totally on the military. What they did was just very, very unprofessional. That boy, I deliberately played that video because I wanted you to notice that boy's arrogance and pride and rudeness. That he didn't behave. Look, I understand that military that what they do, of course, they obey the command, the command of their superior. There's no doubt about that. They don't listen to any civilian. All they listen is the command of their superior, the personnel that gave them that order. But at the same time, I didn't expect a professional military personnel was not supposed to engage in altercation, in verbal altercation. You were given an instruction: go man this land. Do not allow anyone to intimidate you. That was the command. You were not given, and you had no right. And it was rude of him to have engaged Wike in back and forth verbal altercation or whatever. That to the extent he was even defending the papers. Who, for God's sake, how did he know that the papers? He was literally defending his boss that the papers are genuine, the papers of the document. That was not his purview. That was not his job purview. That was out of his pay grade. That conversation was completely out of his pay grade. All he was supposed to do is, when the FCC minister and the policemen came, all would have said just simple one or two words. I'm sorry, sir. I'm just obeying the orders. That is just it. No other whatever. Why did he never had any right to defend the papers or whatever? That was none of his business. Wike is not on his league. That conversation was supposed to be between Wike and his boss, not him. So that guy was very, very rude. I would expect of course the military may have praised him, or military don't always criticize them. They always side themselves. They don't, no matter what they do in the public, they just go. They can do that in the secret, but openly military don't criticize themselves. But at the same time, I expect that guy, this is because we are under civilian rule. That's why we are democracy. If we are democracy, that guy should be disciplined, should be punished for actually confronting the minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, of Federal Capital Territory, sorry. So the reality is that guy was he misbehaved. That's just it. I didn't see him as the hero. And I don't know why Nigerians, I even had some people who are exposed and learned and civilized praising that guy for his courage. What courage, for God's sake? Yes, we all don't like Wike's arrogance and misbehaviors and radicalism or whatever, and other nonsense he does publicly. But at the same time, that boy was wrong. Now, on the part of Wike, I didn't expect Wike to go to that site, for God's sake. Why will you? Why would what I don't understand. You were told that, okay, the military personnel have manned or whatever. They refuse to evacuate or whatever. So what do you want to do? You want to go fight the military? You're a civilian, for God's sake. Military, they are trained to fight. That is what all the military know to do: fight and kill. What if those military people have? The truth is that he was even lucky. He was lucky because military. His only saving grace was that the order given to those military personnel was not to injure or kill anyone or to shoot anybody. I bet you, if they had told it that, I don't know, I think Lieutenant is that Yerima, right? If they had told that Yerima, that military officer, that giving him command, look, whoever makes a move or anybody that tries to stop you from doing that, shoot that person. If they had given him that command, I'm telling you, Wike would have been shot and nothing will happen. The military will protect their own.
Let me correct an impression that we have come to accept. That is a very wrong impression. And that is not within the military law. That is not within the civil law. These issues of military-civilian conflict have even gone to Supreme Court several times. Supreme Court has given several judgments. A military officer is not under an obligation to obey an unlawful order. So
yes, I agree with you.
Cannot order a lieutenant to stand in a land matter, a civil matter, and shoot anybody that
I was actually coming to that. No.
If he obeys that one, he's obeying an unlawful order.
But I totally agree, because I was coming to that. I totally agree with you, because I was coming to that the military are not under obligation to obey, and even in the US like that, they are not under obligation to obey any unconstitutional or unlawful command. That, of course, I agree totally. It's not just Nigeria. We have the same issue too. Sometimes in the past, about in the US or whatever. So US actually, a military officer, a personnel can just disregard the president's command as long as it violates the law. A sort of. So I was actually coming to that now, but my point is this. What the Wike, I'm trying to actually scold Wike for his own misconduct. That there was no need for him to be there. What was his aim? What was his intention? To dislodge the military? For God's sake. To dislodge the military that are really trained. Were actually trained for this. That is what they are trained for, to kill. What if that guy has shot him? In fact, are we going to be talking about the courts? What if he had lost his life? Are we going to be talking about the court? Court will intervene. What happens at the end of the day? The power bloc and the military will defend their own, even in the court. And at the end of the day, it will become a political whatever. Then, at that point, Wike has lost his life. So my point is, when this thing happened, I didn't expect Wike to. All I expected was to go back to court, just like you said earlier. It's a civil matter. Okay, the military or whatever, they came back to report to you that the military have refused to. Okay, let them go to court. Or if you can't even go to court, let the president himself, because both institutions are serving the president. They are at the beck on call, the command of the president, under the command of the president. Now take this matter to the president.
Again, let me intervene here. The Wike, I wholeheartedly agree with you that he ought not to have engaged in a verbal altercation with the officer. But by law, he has right to demolish any property that is being built without building approval. It is the other party that ought to take civil measures to protect his land if he feels that the FCT is doing something wrong. But on noticing what happened and taking into account what had happened before, that directors had gone there, officials had gone there, and the soldiers had chased them away, I would have expected Wike to engage the military authorities at the highest level. That, look, this is what your officers are doing illegally on the land. The officer, on the other hand, knowing that this is the person in charge of land, in charge of building, in charge of everything in this thing, has come himself. What I expected him to do is to call his boss.
No, Barrister. No.
I'm coming.
Barrister, you don't know that. Look, Barrister, let me tell you one thing. How military don't operate that way. Let me tell you one thing. No, the truth is, military do not. I don't know why people will say that. Military do not. That guy, his own job was to just remain there. He does not. He just dare not call his boss. For what?
Let me make the point clear. The situation that was on hand there could have resulted in even the soldiers being killed, because Wike was there with armed policemen, with armed DSS people who also had guns, who were also ready to draw their guns. So the soldiers themselves could have been killed. It's just not the other party. If the shooting had started, the DSS that were protecting the minister, the police that were protecting the minister could have also opened fire. Nobody can say who would have been killed. So I expected in a tense situation like that, where eventually shooting may happen, you are under an obligation to consult your superior. He would have called his boss that sent him that, look, this is the situation that has developed here. They could have discussed, and maybe everything would have...
Barrister, let me tell you one thing. I seem to understand how the military works a lot, because I'm such a person that takes so much interest in the military and how their command and control system. Military, that will be the violation of the military code for him to place a call to his boss. He was given one command, one order. Go to this place and man it. He dare not. No military officer will do that and call his boss and whatever. That's a civilian way of doing things. Militaries, they are zombies. Go there and man. So that guy, my only problem with the military officer was that he tried to be the court. He tried to play the role of a judge or whatever. They tried to play the role of a litigant by that was not his position, whatever. So as a result of that, to me, he came out as rude and arrogant, a sort of. So that is one. Now, On the Wike's case, what I expected him, okay, let's even assume on the alternative, he walks to the site and he truly saw what was reported to him, that was exactly what the all like what's the problem here, what or whatever, and the guy told him, okay, that I'm under command, under orders to do this. Oh, really? Okay, all right. Now, Wike, you place a call to either you walk back, go back to your office, or you place a call even there, just like he did. He actually did that, but the way he did that in a very childish, very, very childish way. Why will you confront? You know this guy, Wike. You are a mature. You are an adult in the government. You know how the military operates. Why confronting this guy? This guy cannot move an inch. He cannot obey you because you are there. The moment he obeys you, he will be court-martialed. That boy would have been fired or even thrown in the guard room for punishment. He would have been punished. That boy was protecting his military career. That was one. And secondly, he was just adhering to the military rules of engagement. So, and that is just it. So, Barrister, the truth is, Wike, both sides, there's no doubt both sides misbehaved. Wike was so childish about it. He behaved so childishly. That is my problem with him. So, the truth is, the military misbehaved, including the authority who came and started bashing Wike, he left, right, and center, or whatever. Oh my God. Honestly, Nigerian institutions, we have problem. Honestly, our institutions will really, really have problem. The people manning our or leading our institutions are just too myopic and too shallow-minded in the way they do things. It is so sad.
Let's face it, this incident has shown the madness in Nigeria, but from every quarter you can think of. If Wike, who is a minister, a representative of the president, can behave like that in public, and then the army can also take laws into their own hands in a civilian dispute, it just exemplifies the madness that is going on in Nigeria today. From every angle you look at it, there's no other way to describe this incident. Even with your right, there's a way you can go about, instead of hooliganism, there's a way you can go about even taking up your right or your responsibility. So this is totally condemnable. The character and the actions of Wike at the scene are totally condemnable.
Honestly.
On the other hand, the military has to remember that they are subordinate to civil authority now in Nigeria.
Yeah.
The military, the highest person in the country today is a civilian, not a military. And the military takes instruction from that civilian.
Yeah.
Let them understand that. Let this thing sink into it. Years of military rule and years of the military doing as they please have built into them that mentality that the army or the military can do whatever they like. I gave you an example. Even as of today, if you have a traffic incident with the military on the road, the next thing they do, they call soldiers, they take you and your vehicle to the barracks.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Even
They've
till
been
tomorrow.
for years.
So this mentality has been built into them for a very long time. Using the military to settle civil and political scores is a common thing. That is what we have to put down clearly. A lot of people have suffered. The Navy in Lagos detained a civilian for 3 years, denied that he was under detention when the court gave an order for enforcement of his fundamental rights. They even denied that they are not holding the man.
All right,
They
Barrister.
for 3 years. At the end of it, none of them was punished. Nothing happened to any officer. So we must, as a country, we are the ones paying the army. They are doing a good job. We praise them. They fight to save the country. But at the same time, they must also understand that a soldier is not born. A soldier is enlisted and trained, and is enlisted from the civilians that they hold in contempt. So, and the civilians work to pay them and to buy the guns. So they should understand this clearly. We work for the same country. They are working.
All right, Barrister.
Other people are working in civilian authority. We all work for the country.
All right, Barrister. Thank you very much. Now you mentioned the issue of both security agents, personnel are confronting each other or whatever. Now, let's go there. Let's say, probably this is a different topic, but similar thing. So, talking about that, let me play this video. You see, that was a situation. You mentioned it earlier. That was a situation, just like you said, could have resulted into death from both sides. The military, they actually engaged each other. The only thing that was they fell short of was pulling triggers. They actually engaged each other in physical altercation, pushing and probably each other. It was their only saving grace was one of the military, the mobile policeman. You heard his voice there. He was speaking in Hausa. He was clearly actually cautioning cautioning everybody, both sides. Say, hey, he was speaking in Hausa. Interpretation, okay, for the benefit of those who don't understand Hausa, let me just use English to interpret it. He was actually cautioning both sides. Hey, why are we fighting ourselves, for God's sake? Why are we fighting for those who want to kill ourselves, for people who are the ones who are enjoying themselves in the office, enjoying and eating all the money or whatever, living in affluence or whatever. So he was literally cautioning others. Say, please, we shouldn't fight ourselves. For God's sake, why do you want to kill ourselves for people who are just enjoying themselves? Why should we? So that man was the voice of reasoning in the midst of those guys. Otherwise, it could have been we could have been talking a different thing entirely, because both sides they had guns. Just like we had DSS, we had the mobile policemen there, and then we have the military. So both parties had guns. Just like the military may have been trained for that, but gun does not. Everybody, all parties, they have the training for guns too.
It's a gun.
Yeah.
A gun is
so both sides have the training to
in
shoot.
the hand of the child. Even in the hand of the child.
So that is the point. So the thing is that honestly, our institutions, our security institutions have a problem. This is not the first time. We always have the situations like this where you hear the military and the police having squabble, physical altercations. In some cases, even shoot at each other.
I hope
in a civilized environment, I don't hear such in a civilized environment, in a developed or civilized environment, where you see two institutions that actually works for. It's just like the US, for God's sake. Even between the federal and the state police, the moment there is issue, if it bothers the federal law, the federal comes in and say, okay, tells the police in charge, this is our case. The moment they see that there is so much decorum and orderliness. The federal police, they're like the FBI comes in. The moment they come in, anything that has to do with the FBI, the moment FBI comes in, the state police, they pull back and hand over everything to them. They don't do it happily, but because they always want to or whatever. But the law is the law, and the chain of command is the chain of command. So, and that is just it. So I don't expect both institutions. What I expected was when they got there, Wike sent them there to do whatever. Just like you noted earlier, you are not under obligation to obey certain certain orders from your boss. That is just it. Both the police and the military. All I expected, just like that man was the voice of reasoning there. Otherwise, they could have been saying a different thing. At least when they got there, instead of confronting each other, was to actually address the situation, and everybody turned back to where they came from. Because I don't understand. The police were trying to protect Wike. I don't understand what we were trying to do. Wike was doing something illegally, as far as I'm concerned, because it was not in your responsibility. You don't have the right, even though you alluded to that earlier, Barrister. He does not have the right to come physically and do anything. It is the court. If you think that those people does not have papers, go to court.
It is not the court. The law has already given him the right to. In every state, not just FCT, every state in Kaduna, Kapsuda can demolish your property. The law has already given them authority to demolish a property that is being built without a building approval.
Yes.
And they demolish it, they don't need to go to court.
Okay,
The law has given them authority.
Okay.
The same thing applies in the FCT.
Yeah, okay, but hold on.
The demolition.
No, but what I'm saying, honestly, in this case, for God's sake, if you want to, if you cannot, even the police that you're whatever, you are coming to dislodge someone, people that are more trained than the police with what they do. A sort of why do you think, like I said earlier, it was foolish of him for him to go confront the military with guns? All he needed to do, you go back to court, let the court now give a ruling or whatever. Go make it. It's a civil, just like you agreed with me earlier. You said it earlier rather yourself that it's a civil case, and truly it's a civil case. Why bringing guns, but gun to face a man holding gun? Go back to court. If the court is the one, the court is the one that will interpret the whole thing. Yeah, just like you said, they have the right to demolish. Yeah, they demolish, but after they want to demolish, and there's people stopping them from demolition. Then go back to court. That is justice.
Like I said, the proper thing would have been for Wike to engage the military authorities at the highest level to draw their attention to the illegality that the military was
let's not even talk about Wike. We're talking about the institutions now. Please,
let me come back
both institutions.
Let me come back to institutions. I want to make a particular issue that happened in Taraba State, where the military shot and killed several police officers. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
There was a notorious kidnapper, Wandume, in Taraba. The police had been on his trail for a long time and tracked him to Taraba. And a squad was sent to arrest him, and they actually picked him. On his way, and as they were going with him in police vehicle with policemen, he managed to call the captain who was deployed in Taraba State under this insurgency. And he had befriended the captain. He was very close to the captain. He managed to call the captain and say he was being kidnapped. The captain, without trying to find out the truth, came with the army, and they overtook the police vehicle conveying this man and opened fire on them and killed about 4 police officers who took this kidnap campaign and took him back. It was later, when the police were killed, that the IG took up the issue with the army, that it turned out that the military acted very irresponsibly. So the man was later handed over back to the police, and he was taken to court by the police. I'm trying to say that the army, just like you pointed out, you come and you see fellow uniformed policemen. Even within the whole country, there is what is called a spirit de corps. It does not limit to one service.
Yeah, you're right.
Police, the army, and even the custom, immigration that wear uniform. Once you wear uniform, you say a spirit de corps. And even if you are not a soldier, the soldier is supposed to have a measured respect for you because you are wearing the uniform, not just to come and open fire like they did and kill policemen. So it comes down to the mentality I was talking about. We have built an army, and we were told that even Obasanjo and other top military officers, they give a wrong interpretation to what the army should be. They say army is trained to kill. Yes, in a war, and legally and lawfully, not kill anywhere, not kill everywhere. So they should not be using that phrase that army is trained, the only thing the army knows is to kill. Yes, you fight in a war. That is the honor. You don't go to the street and kill people and then boast. You are not a hero there. And that's not the training you are given. So let the mentality be there. While you are trained to kill, there are instances that you are not supposed to exercise that training. Just because you hold the gun or you hold the weapon or you wear the uniform.
Now,
let's have gentlemanly.
Yeah, but my problem is, you know why? Excuse me. Why this thing will not be abated? Will continue this way until there is a policy, a deliberate and intentional government policy that will actually exert certain level of punishment to whoever to such misconduct. Because the truth is that this thing has been happening for so many years.
It has been going on for a long time.
We've never had a situation where somebody was held accountable.
They are not. They are not. You can see what happened. The Minister of Defense. Everybody is afraid of the army, and against the background of the coup.
So why will somebody? Yes, because
against the army, even as they knew that it is wrong, everybody is afraid.
You see, that is the problem. I don't even know why people feel intimidated at the military somehow. Honestly, including people in government, it is irritating for people to feel intimidated. I understand that someone with a gun, but at the same time, there should be a level of confidence over your subordinates, even if they have a gun. So my point is this: the government has to be deliberate and intentional in actually establishing a policy, putting a policy in place that can actually curb this nonsense, this radical stuff, especially in the military. You don't just go and open fire. Look at police officers have lost their lives for just nothing. What the officers who killed them, the military officers who killed them, what did they do to them? What punishment did they mete out to them?
Happens to them.
You can imagine that. It is not supposed to be so. People are supposed to be held accountable. People are supposed to go to jail. If you kill someone as an officer, a military officer, you kill a police person based on arrogance and general misconduct or misconception or irrational actions, you go to jail. If you have to face the gallows, you go face the gallows. If you have to face firing squad, you face the firing squad. If you kill someone, if it's a murder case, you face the murder case. If it's a manslaughter, you face manslaughter. I don't even know that until the military personnel begin to face the wrath of the law, face justice in such misconduct, it will not stop. But what happens is that at the end, when this such thing happens, the matter goes to the military, and the organs will eventually, what they do is just a slap, maybe behind closed doors. There is just a slap on the wrist, and that's it. And the person
at the end of it, the same thing you are saying, I'm saying it. There must be a policy. We own the army. The army does not own us.
That is it.
This must be made manifest. The country owns the army. Nigerians own the army. It is not the other way around.
Yeah, and besides, Nigeria, what is the army meant for? The military is meant to protect us. For now, you are meant to protect us. Now you are the one killing us.
It is not a foreign army. It is not an enemy. It's our army meant to protect us. We own them. So let this thing be made very, very manifest in their training, in the training of the army. That has been what has been lacking in the army's training and policy from day one, right from colonial times. Now, when you see the background, I always say that everything has a background and foundation. When the foundation is not proper, a lot of things come. During the army was started like the police during the colonial times. They had no regard for the civil population. The army was started to assist Britain in their wars. They had no regard for the civilian population.
Yeah.
And that has carried over to today. It is difficult to change that mentality. When a person is in uniform, he thinks that he can deal with you anyhow. That is not the correct mentality.
Honestly. It's so sad, honestly, so very sad. I hope the Nigerian government will it's just too much, We've been passing through this nonsense by the military for a very, very long time. Their high-handedness is just out of place.